Okay, so we just talked about the negative externality when you go away to college and you got the roommate that plays the really noisy, obnoxious music. But now we're going to switch it up. You're still at college, you're still living in the dorm. The roommate's still got the stereo. However, instead of being a bunch of nerds now, you're like, the dorm is really made up of rambunctious, I use rambunctious here, students interested in partying, having a good time, and so they really enjoy your roommate's stereo. So now the question is, if we ask the dorm, the community, what should your roommate do when it comes to playing his or her stereo, what does the community say? Community probably says something like, rock on. And in fact, not only rock on, but rock more. Play more music, right? Everybody's loving it. And if you've ever been in a community where, you know, maybe you like doing something, maybe you like shooting baskets at the park, but then a crowd shows up and they all like shooting baskets, you end up there for hours, right? Much more than you would have on your own. Similar situation here. One man or woman can only listen to but so much music for so long at a very high volume without some encouragement from his or her friends, right? So here he has that, or she has that. And so they would probably want to play more music. And if you think about it, what's going on here? If we compare, before we look at the graph here, if we compare the social, the public benefits of this music versus the private benefits, we notice that there are added social benefits, right? So we have extra benefits here that are bigger than the private benefits, right? So now let's take a look at the chart, the graph, and try to illustrate this graphically. So hang on a second, I'm going to add some stuff. And so again, this is your negative externality here. We have extra cost, MC. We got two MCs, two marginal cost here. And so these are what we call spillover cost. Over here, we have not the cost. There's only one cost curve. So apparently the cost to the community, the marginal social cost and the marginal private costs are in fact the same here. But we have added benefits now. So let's see. What I want you to try to do here, and sometimes we refer to these as having spillover benefits. So sometimes you hear external benefits, spillover benefits, external costs, spillover costs. They're meant to describe these situations of positive and negative externalities. Now, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to put in the labeling that went over here with marginal social benefit, marginal social cost, those things, because I want you to try to think about where they're going to go over here. All right? I'm going to pause for a second. So here, we only had one benefit curve. So we have the benefits, the private benefits and the social benefits, they matched up here. Because really the only person that benefited in this situation was your roommate, because everybody else was a bunch of nerds and didn't like the music. And we also had, we had the private cost here, and then we had the added social cost, because people, the cost to the community, when we considered that, they were greater than the cost to just your roommate. And again, notice the notation, don't let this confuse you. So this is just saying that if you added the private cost and the cost to the community, you would get the total cost. Again, we just, on the AP test, they just refer to the total cost as the social or the public. They include both private and the community's cost in this marginal social cost on the AP test. So it's just a matter of a small difference in how you think about it. So let's see if you can take a second here and try to put in what you think, where you think these four labels will go here. All right? One curve is going to have two labels, and the other two curves will have one label each. Okay, try it. I'll wait for a second, give it a shot, and then I'll show you how it goes. Did you do it? Okay, so let's see here. So we only have one cost curve, so let's start with that one. So remember, everybody in the dorm really likes the music now that we have this positive externality. So this represents the marginal private cost, but it also represents the marginal social cost, because they're one and the same. There's no extra cost here being incurred by anybody in the dorm. Everybody really likes this music. So whatever cost your roommate shelled out to buy the stereo, to set the stereo up, to pay for all the music, all those types of things. Well, those are the only costs because the community doesn't feel any. They really like the music. Now this guy right here, this is MBP, and that stands for your marginal benefit. But what type of benefit? The P's, you got to be careful. This is private benefit. And you notice it is lower, it is below this one right here because this is the marginal social benefit. Remember, the community, you guys love this music, so you guys are getting an extra benefit. It's not just the benefit to your roommate, but now there's a benefit to everybody in the dorm because we love it. It gives us a bunch of energy, gets us motivated to go out and have a good time. We love the music, all right? And what I want you to do is I want you to take a second here. I want you to look at B, okay? And I want you to see if you can answer the questions on B on your own here. And to do this, you need to think about what the private, I want to say this correctly, what would be the level of output if we just worried about the private costs and benefits, and what would be the appropriate level of output if we considered everyone's interest, okay? I'm going to pause for about 10 seconds here, pause the video, give that a shot on your own. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see if we can identify the quantity private, which was the first. Well, you did this in A over on this graph, but it doesn't ask you to do that over here, but let's do it anyways. So the quantity, the private one, so you're just going to look at your private benefits and your private cost. Well, let's see where they intersect. They intersect right here. So that means that Q3 has to be your quantity private. So this is if your roommate just thinks about his or her cost and benefits. But now if we think about the society, now we want to think about not just the marginal private cost and benefits, we want to think about the social ones. So it's the same supply curve, it's the only supply curve we have, but now our intersection is here. So now 4 is our QS, our socially optimal level of output here. Now if you looked at B asks you, essentially it says, hey, this is a positive externality, you really love the music. It asks you how do total benefits, social benefits, plus private benefits, what we consider our marginal social benefit, how does it differ from private benefits? So it's asking you to compare these two curves. So if I were going to say this, I would say it sure looks like the marginal social benefit is greater than the marginal private benefit. Does that look right to you? At every single quantity, if you measured the cost or benefit, the dollar value, you would find that the social benefits are higher, right? So that should, and that's a common question that they'll ask. They'll ask you like they'll say like at quantity 4, how do the private benefits and the marginal private cost or something like that compare? And you'll have to be like, okay, well, it's down here at 4, the private benefit, and the private cost is up here, okay. And so that's how you would do that, all right? It's a test of reading the graph. Then it goes on to ask you in B, if your roommate considers the social benefits from playing music as well as the private benefits, what happens to the quantity of music played? So what quantity of music will your buddy pick if he plays, if he thinks about everybody? Well, it's going to be 3 or 4. Which is it? It's going to be 4. Because he'll be thinking that's where our social benefits and social costs are considered. Right there, those two curves. So it would be at 4. And so, again, when he's thinking only about himself or herself, he's at 3. So what's he actually do if he thinks about everybody? He adds an extra hour. So, and then I'll go back to where we started. What do we say? When we're in this situation, rock on, play more music. So don't let yourself get confused by the graph. Just kind of have that overarching idea that you enjoy this, you get a benefit out of it. So that's what you want to consider. Take a stab at D, and that's where we're going to stop. So now you've got both graphs, you looked at both graphs, we've talked about them. I want you to try D on your own here, and then I will get back to you and we'll talk about the results, okay? Go try D. Let me know if you're having any trouble.